Good evening. I'm Tad, filling in for Brett, who'll be back for the weekend. He's off spending a little time with his family for spring break, which I think some of us are doing as well, or some others of us, I should say. All of us are here. Maybe some of us are guests tonight, but a lot of us, I guess we got stuck, right? We didn't get to go somewhere for spring break. Well, as you guys may or may not know, I am a missionary to Vanuatu, but I guess I should say that I have been a missionary, and we'll see what happens coming up. We've been here for 2 years or 25 months right now because of COVID. And of course, just as when we were, as we were, coming out of it here, and finally a lot of the mandates are finished and everything, Vanuatu now has just now gotten COVID about 10 days ago, or 2 weeks, something like that. So they're up to over 1,000 cases now, so it's spreading pretty rapidly, because it's not a huge population there. But anyway, so now they're on total lockdown. They've been on total lockdown, but this is like real total lockdown. Before it was total lockdown, but now it's total lockdown, meaning they really mean it. So it's kind of like here. Tonight I want to talk about, so I probably shouldn't tell you what I want to talk about, because if I do, then you're going to go, oh no. But what I want us to think about is this thing about waiting and about patience. And so now you know why I said I didn't want to tell you. Why? Because waiting is no fun, generally speaking, and patience is one of those virtues that you can only learn by being more of what you're trying to learn. You're having to be patient, and therefore that's how you learn it. You can't learn patience instantly, or it's not patience. Do you know what I mean? So, it's kind of funny. Again, the differences between parts of the world. Vanuatu is very laid back. It's very slow, and it's wonderful. But it's funny because you have people who leave this part of the world, or when I say this part of the world, I just mean the Western world. Australia counts, New Zealand. You get tourists coming from all over, and invariably, they're coming from parts of the world that are more like here. In other words, the fast part of the world. The part of the world that things have schedules and you have to follow them. And so it's always funny when we're traveling to observe people. Maybe some of you guys like going to the mall and observing people. I don't like going to the mall, but I like observing people. I find it interesting and kind of humorous. So I guess what that means is I like going and laughing at people in my mind. And so when we're traveling, though, inevitably, we figured out that about 40% of our flights or our itineraries don't happen. So 40% of the time, we'll have at least a flight canceled or majorly delayed, or there'll be a problem with the plane. We'll take off, and you think, okay, we're going, and then the plane comes back and lands again. That kind of thing. That's pretty common in Vanuatu and in the South Pacific in general. But the thing that's fun is when those times happen, which we know are going to happen, it's fun to watch the people who don't know that's going to happen. And it's fun to watch how, you take off, you come back down, you have to get off the plane. You get off the plane, you have to go through security again. Now, all you did was you got on the plane, went in the air, came back. I don't know where you picked up some things that you shouldn't have had, but you have to go through security again. And then you wait. And then you find out why we landed again. And I remember one trip, just watching people get so frustrated. And these very important people go up to the counter or to the people who are working, and they demand to know what's going on. And the people who are working there have no idea. And even if they have an idea, they're probably not supposed to tell you. And so I remember this one time just watching this older couple, and they just were very frustrated. I demand to speak to your superior. So the person kind of did one of these things, kind of went, that's a pretty big reaction. And so, about a half an hour later, the people were like, where is this person? And I was like, he's coming. Anyway, we sat here watching these people, and they're fidgeting, they're going through their stuff, and they're, being all, I don't know what you call this, but it's an attitude. And it's kind of like that. And everybody's hot and sweaty, and so, they're getting frustrated. But what ended up happening is they're like, we have connections. We have to go. We have a resort in, I forget where it was, but some other island country, probably Tonga or someplace, I don't know. And they're like, we have to go. And the manager said, well, if you'd like to go with a broken windshield, you can leave now. Because the plane had a broken windshield, and that's why we came back. So I didn't even know planes really, I don't know, it's probably not called a windshield, but the glass that the pilot looks out of, but they don't probably look at it that much, but they look at the panels or whatever. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. And I just thought, this is awesome. Here these people are demanding to leave, but they would have to go on a plane with a broken windshield. So anyway, the truth is, though, I've been thinking about this, and there is this thing that I think most of us really get frustrated when things are not the way they're supposed to be. In other words, there's something in your life that's out of whack, and you feel like it's got to be fixed right now. Maybe you've lost a job, and you feel like, I have got to have a job right now. And maybe you do need a job right now, but the panic that sets in. Or maybe it's, I need a car, and I need this or that, the other thing. And because it's so important, we just forget about praying. We forget about seeking the Lord. We just try to make something happen. Do you know what I'm talking about? Sometimes we get this way when we see a need. We know of somebody else who they need a house, and they need it right now. And so we panic about it, and we try to work things out, and we try to I think that's a good thing. However, the attitude that goes with it is what the problem is, or the lack of bringing things to the Lord. And so what I wanted to kind of look at tonight is this thing of when we feel pressure, either because we have something that has to happen, or maybe the pressure is because nothing is happening. You've got some downtime in your life. Suddenly you're without a job and you have nothing to do. And you feel like, I've got to fill my time. Or you're kind of, maybe a lot of you felt this if you had to quarantine. I mean, like because you were exposed and then you were fine, but you had 10 days or 14 days where you had to sit around doing nothing. You know that feeling of the first day or so, it's like, hey, this is kind of cool. I'm going to binge watch something. And then you do, and then pretty soon you're like, I've got to do something. I've got to move. I can't sit anymore. I've got to, I don't know what. You know, when I got COVID, I did some yard work because it felt a lot better than sitting around for all the hours. But here's the thing. Spiritually, the same thing takes place. The same tendencies we have in any area of our life tend to be the same tendencies we have in every area of our life, if you know what I'm saying. So if you're a person who really gets out of whack when things aren't right, that should be a good warning for you to make sure that you're thinking about what you're doing and not acting hastily. You know, the Proverbs chapter 19, Verse 2 says, this is a verse that I think about from time to time. You don't have to look it up, I'll just read it to you. It says, desire without knowledge is not good, and whoever makes haste with his feet misses the way. You ever seen that? When you do something right away, something you feel like you have to do right away, and then you realize, oh, I blew it. I got ahead of myself. All that panic for nothing. It didn't matter, or whatever. Or worse, you've created a problem for yourself. Have you ever said something in haste? What's the saying? Sin in haste, repent at leisure. Is sometimes it's speak in haste and eat those words at leisure. But we want to watch out for this thing of being hasty. So if you want, you can grab your Bibles and turn to Psalm chapter 40. That's our main passage for tonight. And it says this, Psalm 40, verse 1. We'll just read, let's say, 1 through 5. It says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. He put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. Blessed is the man who makes the Lord his trust, who does not turn to the proud, to those who go astray after a lie. You have multiplied, O Lord my God, your wondrous deeds and your thoughts toward us. None can compare with you. I will proclaim and tell of them, yet they are more than can be told. So what I want to do tonight, I want to do something, maybe it's a little bit simple, but that's kind of where I operate. I like to operate in the simple things because I find that there's enough to focus on the simple things that I don't have to get worried with the complex things too often. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but here in this passage, there's this part, the very first words where it says, I waited patiently for the Lord. And what I want to do is I want to look at three things about that. The first one is waiting. The second one is waiting patiently. And the third one is waiting patiently for the Lord. You see, because even though you could take it all at once, I waited patiently for the Lord, very often we kind of gloss over things like that, and we don't really think about what we're saying or what we're reading. And this thing of waiting it's a challenge, because what do we want to do? We want to charge ahead, don't we? We want to move. We want to make things happen. Even if, by the way, even if you're a really laid back person here tonight, if you're just like, I am just catching up to what you said when you sat down, even if you're that person. Hi, Marna. That's my wife. Even if you are moving at that pace, guess what? All of these things we're talking about, waiting, patience, they're all relative. Do you know what I'm saying? In other words, there's waiting, and sometimes if you're waiting for, you almost feel like you're not waiting if it's, just a minute. Or let's say 5 minutes, that's hardly a wait, right? 5 minutes is about an hour and a half first thing in the morning when you're trying to heat some water. Have you ever noticed that? I turn on what we call our water hotter. And we do that because in Vanuatu, you hot the water. You don't heat it up. They say, hot the water. So we call it our water hotter. And it's just one of those electric kettle things, And it's to make some tea in the morning. I know you guys probably mostly drink coffee, but I've kind of taken on the thing of drinking tea. But anyway, to watch that thing, here it's really fast. It's powerful. We got a good one, and it still takes 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And I just stand there going, today? Please, how long do I have to wait for this water? Because then you pour the water in over your tea bags, and you got to wait 3 to 5 minutes again. And it's like, oh man, Anyway, it's all relative, because then if you're having to wait, like, how would you feel like if you were going to go buy a car and they said, oh, it'll probably take 3 to 5 minutes to buy the car today? That's instant, right? So it's all relative. It's all relative. Even 3 to 5 hours is fast to buy a car. So, if you're not getting the undercoat and all that stuff, maybe you can do it. But anyway, but we tend to charge ahead. Even the slowest of us we reach our point, whatever that is, and maybe some of us have a longer waiting period that we are comfortable with than others, but we all reach a point where we say, enough, I've had it. Even in Vanuatu, the people there, they have their time. It's just a lot longer than ours. And it's fun for me when we're talking with people there to say, you need to wait. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, man, they waited a lot longer than I would have. But the answer is still, wait. Wait on the Lord. Don't rush. Don't miss the way. And so here, we're reminded to be waiting, to wait on the Lord. Not to rush, not to charge ahead. But instead, there's a lot of times when you're facing either those down times or any time where you're feeling like, I got to move. I've got to hear from the Lord. I need direction. And often those times we need it, but we don't even pause. We don't even stop until we've made a big mess. And then we go, oh, I guess I should have waited. But the point is, we need to wait, and we need to put ourselves in a place where we say, okay, I'm hitting the pause. Maybe that pause will be short, depending on the situation, but sometimes it might be long. And so I like to think of it like this. When I'm waiting for the Lord, that's a time, at least in the very beginning, when I know what I need to do is not sit there with the car running and expect to hear from the Lord and expect to see something happen. Usually it means turn off the car. Get it in your mind, I'm not doing anything until I hear from the Lord. I'm not doing anything until I have some direction. Now, like I said, that could come quickly, but very often it'll be a while. It might not be that day, or it might not be that week, but don't stop the waiting. You got to remember to be waiting and to allow him to help us. Why do we want to wait for him? Because he wants to help us. And he promises that if we commit our ways to him, what will he do? He will direct our paths. He will make our paths straight, right? You can read about that in Proverbs chapter 3. But also, we know that when we're in that place and we're trying to make a decision or we need to see something happening, we very often need wisdom. And he promises he'll give us wisdom. James 1:5. He promises he'll give wisdom to anybody who seeks him, who asks. And he won't make fun of us for asking. He won't find fault, James says. I love that. That's one of my favorite things. That I know that when I ask the Lord what I even consider a dumb question, that he's not saying, wow, I thought you were farther along than that. Boy, Tad, maybe you should ask your kids for a little help. No, he knows where we're at, and he doesn't make fun of me. He's like, glad you asked. Man, thanks for asking me what I think. Because you see, the Lord has wisdom for us, and our wisdom that we're going to get is going to be for that specific situation. It won't be for every situation necessarily, but it will be for that one. And the Lord will give it to us. But not only that, there's this, what I will call it's not really selfish motivation, but there's a blessing in it for us. If we wait on the Lord, if we wait, it's because he wants to help us. And when he delivers us, we're going to have joy. In the passage right here, it said, right after waiting patiently for the Lord and the Lord lifting him up out of the pit and putting him on a firm rock, he says, he put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. Why was that new song there? Because the Lord had delivered him. And there is nothing better than when we've been waiting on the Lord and we've just been patient and we've been holding on to see when we reach the end, man, the Lord acted on my behalf, or the Lord acted on our behalf. I can't tell you how fun it is. That's one of the fun things being here all the time at church is seeing the Lord working in your lives. And I get to watch it. You know, I get the chance to hear story after story of how the Lord led somebody in. There are some stories I could tell you that we don't have time. But just fun stories, fun things, like how the Lord leads or has led somebody to buy a house, but set the whole thing up in advance as far as giving the verses, because she was seeking the Lord, and the Lord gave her specific verses, and these verses just kept popping up over and over and over through the process, right through to the very end. And it's just like one confirmation after the next, after the next, after the next. And it was a real fun time. Both my wife and I were part of that, just getting to pray with one of the ladies here in church, and a good friend of my mom's. But it's just so fun to see the Lord working on our behalf. You know what I'm saying? When you pray and then you get the answer, there's this joy, and you do have like this song that just is there. You're just so happy. If you haven't had that experience, let me tell you, it's worth it. And what I mean is, it's hard those first times. Let's say you haven't been walking with the Lord that long, or maybe the thing of waiting for the Lord is a new thing for you. Maybe you've kind of lived your life. Yes, you're a Christian. Yes, you love the Lord. Yes, you know the Lord. But pretty much you've directed your own life. It's easy for us to do that. But you know what? It's so much better when we wait and we say, Lord, what do you want? Because then we see, yes, this really is of the Lord. And yes, he made it happen. And you say, oh man, I didn't even have anything to do with that hardly. That's an awesome thing. Well, not only should we wait, but now we look at this waiting patiently. This is the hard one. Waiting is hard, but waiting patiently implies waiting when you're tired of waiting, right? Because you're reaching the point, you've waited to the point where, okay, now my patience is exhausted, right? So now I'm waiting patiently. And that means, okay, I'm holding on. I'm not doing anything. I'm being patient. You know what this, in the Old Testament, the way this is worded is it's waiting in waiting. And we translate it, waiting patiently. But it's like waiting while you're waiting. So you see what I'm saying? This is the long waiting. Now, maybe it's that you had to wait twice as long as you expected, or maybe you had to wait 50 times as long as you expected. It's whatever that amount is, doesn't matter. But what matters is being patient. So what that means is this. It means holding on, holding yourself back, letting the Lord be the one who's setting the pace. It's real easy for us to try to set the pace all the time, isn't it? I don't know about you guys. I tend to want to, there's a certain amount that I'm good with, you know what I mean? Oh, I can wait. But then when that limit is hit, then it's like, okay, it has to happen now. That bill must be paid by the 5th or the 15th or the 25th or whatever the thing is. And I can tell you times in our lives when we had bills and no way to pay them, and I'm thinking, Lord, I've got to have that money by tomorrow. So, great, no watch. That's kind of on a watch for you right there. I'm looking at my watch I don't have. I guess you should think about what you do before you do it, before you gesture in front of a group of people. But you see, we have to say, okay, my time limit is this. But what is the Lord's time limit? I don't know. And maybe maybe he's going to come through right before the last moment. I've had that happen numerous times. But I've also had numerous times when the thing that I thought was the deadline, the absolute last time that I could move on this thing, whatever it is, wasn't really the absolute last time that I could ever move on that thing. It turned out, I didn't do it, and they gave me another week, or they gave me another month, or they gave me what? And the Lord knows. And I know he's taken me through time after time after time like that, so that I learn, okay, Lord, it's your time, not mine. And when I'm feeling like, okay, my patience, it's not wearing thin, it's just gone, okay? I'm out. There's no patience left, but I still have to wait. So then that's when I'm going, okay, Lord, help me to be patient. Give me patience. Give me strength. And he will. He does. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it's worth it. It's always worth it, no matter how bad. And I'll tell you what, I think all of us older people in here know this to be true. The more things you go through, and the seasons that were so hard and so unpleasant in some ways, end up being things that later on in life you're really thankful for. You're really thankful because now when something happens, you don't panic. Because you've already been through that kind of thing before. Or you don't worry. Or then, you're talking to somebody who's younger, say, hey, don't sweat. Don't sweat it. Trust in the Lord. Guaranteed promise, he's gonna help you. He's gonna come through. You don't have to worry about it. And it's real easy to say that because I went through all those times of sweating and worrying and fretting. But it's worth it. You go, so great, because the Lord's doing it. But here's the thing. The reason we have to wait patiently is because we have to remember to let the Lord be the one leading it. He has to lead us. It has to be in his timing, because then he's the one who does it. And then when he does it, we go, Lord, that was you. That wasn't me. We have a verse that we've held on to for years. We actually just went through on a Wednesday night just recently, but it's Micah chapter 2, verse 13, where it says, he who opens the breach goes up before them. They break through and pass the gate going out by it. Their king passes on before them, the Lord at their head. I love that because you got this picture, and this is what really helps me. So many times when you're in that position of waiting, you're waiting because there's some kind of obstacle in front of you, whether it's a deadline or whether it's some other decision that's out of your hands, or whatever the thing may be. You have this barrier, this gate that's shut, and you can't get through it. You don't have the key to open it, or you're not strong enough to move the gate or whatever. And I always have this picture in my mind of, okay, I'm waiting, because when the Lord goes through that gate, it's coming down. It's going open. However you want to view it, whether it's an obstacle or whether it's just a matter of a permission, to me, they're kind of different, at least in my mind. I always picture the Lord going through, and then I just get to follow right behind where he's made the path open and clear, and there's nothing like it when you see the Lord do that. So hold on to yourself, as in hold yourself back, control, say, okay, Lord, I'm waiting. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to let you do it. I believe you can. I believe you will. And here's what will happen. By the way, during this time, when you're waiting patiently for the Lord, it's good to remember that he needs time to tell you things and to show you things. And he's going to, through this time of waiting and learning patience, he's also going to be giving you verses from his word. You're going to be praying and praying again and pray. When you go through a situation where you pray and you pray and you pray and you keep praying because you've got to pray, because if you don't pray, you're really worried and you're fearful, or you're feeling, disquieted or whatever, just keep praying, keep reading the word. He will give you the verses, then he will bring them up again, and he will show you what to hold on to. And here's what will happen. Over that time, you'll say, okay. And then you'll start to see as things kind of break loose, so to speak, you'll see, yep, the Lord is fulfilling what he said. But if you didn't have that time, you wouldn't know that stuff. You wouldn't be able to see what he's doing. So the big thing to remember is it's not about us mapping out our own plan. It's not me figuring things out. It's not you being so wise. It's letting the Lord be the one mapping out the plan. Don't Google your problem. You know what I'm saying? It's really easy to do. I do it all the time when I'm trying to fix my car or something. I Google it and see how to fix it. But life doesn't work that way. The big challenges, and I've been surprised, if you go, you can find these websites that'll talk about the things people Google, and you think, why would you trust some search engine with the important questions of your life? But people do. Maybe some of us have. Don't. Don't. Ask the Lord. Ask him. He's way better than Google. You know what I mean? Obviously, but it's true. Wait for him. Let him lead you. Don't try to figure things out by making your pros and your cons and saying, well, if I do this, this will be the best, or if I do that, that would be good. Those things are fine, but don't trust those things. Don't trust yourself. Let the Lord lead. And you know what else? It is good to be counting the cost. So when I'm saying don't make pros and cons, I'm not saying don't count the cost. You do want to count the cost. If you're thinking about building a house, you want to seek the Lord and have wisdom from him, but you also have to count the cost. That's a biblical thing, right? That you have to know, okay, it's going to cost this much, and do I have it? Is that a reasonable and fair figure that I could do? And what if it goes 75% over that? Because that's a way of happening. Especially right now, I would assume that's a real tricky thing. The point is, count the cost, yes, but don't let that be your deciding factor either, always. Just so you know, I'm just saying this. Most of the time, when I'm talking about counting the cost between me and the Lord, I'm figuring out, okay, Lord, if this happens, but you've led me into it, then I don't have to worry when that happens. There was a time many years ago that my wife and I were faced with a big decision, and it was something we knew the Lord was leading us into, but we also knew it had a very high probability of going bad. And yet we were feeling like the Lord was leading us in it. And yet we knew it had a real high chance of going bad and being really ugly and really not working out well. But it seemed like the Lord was leading us to do it. And this was before we were here at Athey. We were living in Newburgh. And I remember having lunch with Brett, and we were talking about it. And I was kind of laying it out to him. And I wasn't saying that I knew it could go bad. I was just saying, what do you think? Because I like to run things by people that I trust when I'm in these situations, And I remember him saying, it's going to go bad. And I said, I knew you were going to say that because that's what I think too. And guess what? It went horribly. However, we knew we had done the right thing, and the Lord blessed us throughout the entire time. And it was, even though it went bad, for us, we were shielded. I don't know how else to put it. Maybe it's because we knew it was going to go bad, but we were fine. And here's the funny part. That decision of going through that bad thing has had ongoing effects that continue to today. That we are here where we are even right now, this minute, because of that decision almost 20 years ago. And I look back and I say, I definitely did not make a mistake. It was the Lord. So what I'm saying is, trust the Lord, don't trust yourself, right? And if he's leading you and he's giving you the word, and he's giving you confirmation in the word and then maybe through other people, and you just have a peace and you go, okay, Lord, then even if you know, well, it could go bad. So life is filled with bad things, right? It could go bad even if it was a good thing, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying. Life is weird that way. So then remember this, that when you're letting the Lord lead and you're waiting patiently for the Lord, then he will often speak and tell you things before they happen, and sometimes a long time before they happen. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you guys experienced this where you feel like the Lord's speaking or showing something to you, and then it doesn't happen? And it doesn't happen, and it still doesn't happen. But you knew it was the Lord. It's okay. It will happen. What am I talking about? Think about David. He was a kid. He was told he was going to be the king. He was anointed. Samuel prayed over him. He anointed him with oil. He was the king, except that he wasn't, right? Saul was the king still. But David was anointed. He'd been prayed for. He was the king. Why is Saul still the king? The Lord already rejected Saul, but Saul was still king. And David knew what? Well, I'm kind of king. I'm king, but I am not king, and I have to wait to be fully king. And he had those years where that was his life. He was the king, but he wasn't until finally Saul was moved off the scene. But it was years and years. But you want to know what's funny, and it's funny and it's sad, but those were David's golden years. Those were his best years. When the things were really hard for him, those were the best years of his life. But it wasn't just David. I mean, think about it. I mean, the Bible's filled with stories. The Lord told Noah, hey, build an ark. 120 years later, he's building that ark. Then finally it starts to rain. That's a long time, or however many years. Not only that, you've got Abraham. The Lord said to Abraham, you're going to be the father of many nations, right? And how long did he wait? It was more than a few weeks, right? He waited for decades. He waited until he's like almost 100. Where's all the kids? You know, I mean, think about it. You're 100. Your wife's 90. Is she about, yep. And that's when it happened. But the Lord had told him years before. He had told them both years before, and he gave them that promise, and he fulfilled it. So I'm just saying, you know, in all these stories, we can look at the times when those people tried to hurry up and think about Abraham, you know, waiting for decades. Is it understandable that he made that mistake with Hagar, that Sarah told him to do that? Is it bad of them to, can you relate? I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't waited for decades for things. Not yet. And I hope I don't. Although, honestly, you know, it was a pretty great promise that Abraham had, wasn't it? So they waited, and after a long time, they ran out of their patience, and they said, okay, it's time for us to do something. Obviously, we must have missed what the Lord meant, right? But the Lord did it. The whole point is, trust the Lord. And just like Abraham, you know, the book of Romans says that Abraham in hope believed against hope that he should become the father of many nations, as he had been told. He hoped against hope. I love that because it doesn't seem to be a very biblical thing to say, right? Against hope. He hoped against hope. In other words, like when his hope was out, the only thing he could do is hope some more in the Lord and just stand on what God told him. By the way, you know that's what faith is. Faith is standing on what God says, standing on his word. Believing him, trusting him, holding on to it, that's what it means. And you just got to do it, sometimes beyond what you think you can do. You know, one time, back when we were living in Medford, I was a youth pastor and working with Brett, and we had the season that was quite busy for both of us. And during that middle of that busy season, my dad gave me a house. But it was a house that was on a lot that was the house was going to be demolished. So he said, if you want the house and you can pick it up and move it, you can have it. So he gave me a house, and then we had to find a house mover to pick it up, put it on wheels, and drive it a mile and a half down the road. And so we did that. And one of the things that happened is we were just, it was one of those very trying seasons of trying to get things done, being so busy and all this stuff. But finally what happened is the Lord really blessed us. A whole bunch of people came together and helped us put this house back together on the lot. And then about, 6 months later, a year later after we'd moved in, we noticed that, man, this house is great. We really feel blessed, but it smells kind of like, we thought we had something bad in the fridge. And then we look into the fridge and can't find anything. No, but man, what? You leave the house and you come back in, it's like, ooh, man, why does this house reek? And finally we realized, oh, you know what? We're on a new lot, and this neighborhood has a lot of water under the houses. A lot of the houses have sump pumps. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to go put in a sump pump. So I thought, before I'm gonna go do that, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna take a few gallons of bleach and just dump out bleach in the water so I don't have to be working in smelly, stinky water, this pond water under the house. So I'm crawling under the house, and when you're under a house, I thought I had left a very nice, amount of space to crawl around in there. Well, I didn't. Because the water was a lot higher than I expected. So, I'm going through, and, you have to duck under the ductwork and stuff like that, and the water's kind of like right, here, you know what I'm saying? That stinky pond water. And I'm going through, and then I have to cross over into the other half of the house, and I'm back there, and at that moment, one of the kids flushed a toilet. And we had a geyser under the house. Our 4-inch drain pipe had been, somebody forgot to glue it, and it popped open, and luckily the pipes the one downhill one dropped down about an inch or whatever, but there was a gap. But the good thing is when a flush happened, most of the flush made the jump. But but later, the slower part of the flush didn't, if you know what I'm saying. And so I'm under there, and I'm seeing this dumping out, and I realize, so there's our problem. I have to fix this pipe. Now, I knew that if I got out of there, I was never going back. I am not going to do it. And I also knew I can't ask somebody to come and swim in our sewage. So I knew I had to fix it. So I very calmly and cheerfully called out to my wife, "Oh, honey." At least that's how I remember it. It was something like that. And luckily we had this one air intake near our hot water heater so that we could talk and actually see each other. And I said, go out to the shed and get our pipe glue and pass it down to me. She goes out, and again, being this thing of waiting and being patient while you're in that situation was not real pleasant. And she comes back and she hands the glue to me, and I open it up. You guessed it, it's dry. You know what I mean? It's not glue anymore. I mean, it's solid. So I was like, oh, do we have another one? Do we have another one? And she said, no, that was the only one we have. And I said, well, you have to go to the store right now and get some pipe glue and do it fast. She's like, but what about the kids? And I said, I don't care about the kids. They'll live. And they did, by the way. And she went to the store and the hardware, and she came back with the glue, and then I needed, I had to clean things up before. It took a while. But let me tell you, I dumped out the bleach, which actually made things worse for a little while. But anyway, got out of the house, hosed off, burned the clothes, did a little streaking in our neighborhood. Nobody saw me, luckily, but because I wasn't bringing anything in the house that would have been with me. But anyway, with that mental picture, let's look at a better situation. In the book of John, at the very end, in chapter 21, you can turn there if you want. If you don't want to, I'll read it to you. I just want to read you a few verses. We're not going to spend long on this. But there's another time of what it's like waiting, and just where you have to just wait. And the disciples were in this situation where the Lord had told them, hey, actually before he was crucified, he said, after I rise again, you're going to meet me in Galilee. And then an angel told the disciples later, or told the ladies to tell the disciples, hey, Jesus is going to be waiting up in Galilee. So that's the story we're picking up here. In verse 1 of chapter 21, it says, after this, Jesus revealed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. And he revealed himself in this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, called the twin, Nathanael of Cana of Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two others of his disciples were together. Simon Peter said to them, I'm going fishing. And they said to him, we will go with you. They went out and got in the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just as day was breaking, Jesus stood on the shore, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, children, do you have any fish? They answered him, no. He said to them, cast the net on the right side of the boat, and then you will find some. So they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it in because of the quantity of fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved, therefore said to Peter, it is the Lord. When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he was stripped for work, and threw himself into the sea. The other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land, but about 100 yards off. When they got out on land, they saw a charcoal fire in place with fish laid out on it and bread. And Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish that you have just caught. So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore full of large fish, 153 of them. And although there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. Now, none of the disciples dared ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and so with the fish. This was now the third time that Jesus was revealed to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. Now, I love this story because, here they've seen the Lord a couple of times, but they still don't recognize him. It's by his actions. It's by what he does that they see him. And the reason I love that for us is that's kind of what the place that we're in right now, right? We don't physically see Jesus working on our behalf. I mean, we don't see him. But what do we see? And how do we recognize him? By the things that he does and the things that he says. And see, that's what he did for the disciples. When he said, hey, toss the net on the other side, John, and they had the fish, John goes, oh, it's the Lord, because of what he said and because of what was happening. And then Peter, jumps in the water and all that. So the thing I want to remind us is, as we're looking at this story, it's very similar to us. The disciples are out there in Galilee. They're actually supposed to meet Jesus on a mountain, but they didn't go to the mountain. Or if they did, it doesn't say that they did. But what they definitely did do is they left the mountain if they had gone to the mountain. And because Peter went back to what he was comfortable doing, or what they all were comfortable doing. They were all pretty much fishermen. And, they probably figured out, we better, things have gone pretty bad lately. Maybe we need to go back and make some money and get some food and that kind of thing. And so they kind of took care of themselves. But the thing that's great is that when Jesus showed up, he did some things that could only be him. And so the disciples had been out there all night, caught nothing. All their sleepless toil was for what? Nothing. Until Jesus showed up and said, toss the net on the other side. Once they did that, what were they doing? And I don't want to be overly analytical in this, but look, once they are tossing the net, what are they doing now? They are now obeying Jesus again, right? They are doing what he's telling them to do. And so when they do that, what happens? They start to have fruit, so to speak. Good things are happening in their lives again because they had been waiting for the Lord, then they weren't, and then nothing, right? And now that they're obeying and they're back on track doing something like Jesus told them to do, what? They start seeing the Lord working in their life again. And I love this because when they do that, then what do they see? They see a miracle. 153 fish, and the net didn't even break. So whether that's a lot of fish or not, it's a lot of fish for that net because they were amazed that it didn't break. I think 150, I've never caught 153 fish. Maybe Jason Birdsley has, I don't know. He's quite a fisherman, but I don't think he's ever caught 150, right? Even bait fish. Okay, good. I was gonna be mad if he'd caught 153 fish. Now I know in total of his life, it far exceeds that. But anyway, these guys, they catch this huge catch, they realize it's the Lord. And what I love is that there's nothing that they did that they can take credit for. And that's the benefit for us when we wait and we're patient and we follow what the Lord is saying. When something happens, we can't take credit for it. And that's the best. It is. When you know in your heart, I didn't do that. That wasn't me. That's the coolest thing. So, there were so many good things about that story that I love. And I don't want to go long, so we'll stop there. But but you can look at it yourself and you can realize, man, not only did Jesus give them the 153 fish, but he also had fish ready to eat. Like he'd already somehow, those fish were there, and bread. So that's great for me because I don't like fish. But I know, hey, bread, I like bread. So that's a great meal. And I'm pretty sure that was pretty good bread. And maybe that was the best fish ever too. God cooked it. So, but here's the deal. If you're in the place right now where you've been tempted or you have been in the middle of just trying to make things happen, stop. Go to the Lord. If you're in a place right now where everything's going good, be ready, because it won't always be good, right? We always are going to have these times where we're wanting to make something happen, but we need to be patient. A lot of times it has to do with ministry. We want to be involved in this ministry, but the Lord's not opening the door, or the Lord's not doing it, or you try and it doesn't go well. Be patient. Trust the Lord. He'll lead you. He'll open the door at the right time. So all of this, just remember, when you allow the Lord to work, then you see that it's him. And when you see that it's him, you get joy that you can't get any other way. And so that's why I'm telling you this, because I don't want us missing out on the good things that the Lord has for us if we just allow him to work. If we don't try to say, no, I got this one, Lord. I'll take care of it. I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. Don't. Say, Lord, I need your help. Well, let's stand. So, Lord, tonight, we are really thankful for your word. We're really thankful for you, Jesus, that you do want to help us, that you have promised us over and over in your word that you will lead us, that you will guide us, that you will make straight our paths, that you will be the light to our path, the lamp unto our feet. Lord, you've promised over and over again that whatever we lack, you can supply. Whatever we need, you're the source. And so tonight, Lord, we want to just give you ourselves and say, Lord, do what you want to in our life. And Lord, do it in your timing. Lord, forgive us for trying to make things happen, trying so hard to improve ourselves or improve our lives or to improve this, that, or the other thing, when what we really need to do is just be giving it to you and trusting you and asking you to help and relying on you for strength and relying on you for wisdom and direction. So Lord, we just ask that you would help us to remember these things. Lord, I know that these are things that it's so easy to forget when the pressure hits. And so Lord, we just ask that the next time for each of us, when the pressure hits, whether it's tonight or tomorrow or next year, that we would remember to wait on you and to trust you to take care of us. So we just ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.